Hi, welcome back to the Time for Tea Designs YouTube channel. This is Lauren, and I'm going to be using some new products in today's video. I absolutely love the movie night stamp set and its coordinating dies, and that we have this fun popcorn stencil that can go along with it. So we're going to do some stenciling and some masking with the stencil, and I'm going to be using some yellow and orangey colors to create a popcorn background. The popping popcorn background is just so fun. I love that the popcorn gets smaller to larger, and you can create some really fun and interesting backgrounds just depending on how you turn your stencil. So I'm using some tape to help keep my paper attached to the stencil and some magnets to keep it in place while I do my stenciling. I'm grabbing my first color, which is mustard seed, and I'm just using a domed foamed applicator to get this in, trying to get it in all the nooks and crannies of my popcorn pieces. And once I have this full background covered, I'm going to add a little bit of wild honey just to darken up some of the areas. It's the more crispy parts of our popcorn. Once I finally have that blended how I liked, I'm actually going to grab my Distress ink and wild honey instead of the oxide to add some splatter. So I'm going to put that onto an acetate or an acrylic block, use my water sprayer and a paintbrush, and I'm just going to flick on some of that color onto the background. Again, just trying to add a little bit more fun and texture to that popcorn. Now it's time for the reveal, so let's get these magnets out of the way, and we're going to just dot off any excess water using a paper towel, and then let's lift up that stencil and take a look. So it looks like it blended really well. I'm happy with the splatter, so I'm going to pull it off, and I absolutely love it. It's actually making me quite hungry for buttered popcorn while I'm watching myself recreate this card during my voiceover. So I'm going to peel off that tape, I'm going to set it aside to dry, and I'm going to clean off my mat. Once I was done cleaning and my background was dry, I grabbed my stitch window cover die and some black cardstock, and I'm going to glue this to the front of that panel. I did cut down that panel so it would fit nicely behind this stitched window cover die. Now that that is together, let's work on a card base. I'm going to go ahead and grab my T ruler because I am in the US and this size is not your typical A2 size for us US card makers. So I did a little measuring, and my card base is 4¼ by 6 inches, and it left a small little border around the cover plate. So I grabbed some red cardstock and I'm going to glue that to the front of my card just to give a little bit more color. And then I will glue that piece to the front of the card. But I wanted it to pop up just a little bit, so I grabbed a piece of craft foam and cut it down to fit nicely behind that cover plate, and I'm just going to use some wet glue to glue all of these pieces together. So first I'm adding that foam behind the stitch frame, and then I'm going to add more wet glue to the back side of the foam so I can attach it down to my new red background on my card base. I'm using wet glue because I think it will give me the most time to make sure I have it perfectly centered onto my card base so I have that even red border around the black. I'm going to set that aside to fully dry under something heavy, and then off camera I did stamp and color my images. I have a freeze frame here in case you want to take a screenshot, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut them out with their coordinating dies, and we'll start building our fun little scene. So here they are. I love this little row of movie seats and that you can put the critters on them in different ways. I love that you could put all three on the chairs. I also love the cute little sloth. I think he would be so fun on the back of the chairs. So if you removed two of the critters, or at least one of them, you could put the sloth on the back top part of the chair. But I wanted to include as many images as I could from this stamp set onto my card, so we're going to make it all fit thanks to this window cover plate die. So I'm only going to show a little bit of my layering, otherwise this video would be quite a long video. I am using the foam squares from Scrapbook Adhesives. They're super thin, so I could do lots of layering here because I'm definitely going to be doubling up. So I'm going to show how I layer my bottom window piece. So first I have my row of seats, and I've used some foam squares behind that. And then I'm going to layer up my little cute critters. So I'm going to start with some thin foam squares again and layer this cat right in the middle. So that way I have lots of dimension without it being crazy bulky because of all of my foam adhesive. I added my raccoon to the left and my little rabbit to the right, and now I'm going to work on layering how I want my sloth to go as well as the rest of my pieces. So I have my sloth with its little soda, and it was eating popcorn, and I want it to look like the popcorn is falling. Like she fell asleep and her snacks are kind of falling off the ledge there. I also have some of the other extra elements, and I wanted to add room for a sentiment, and I thought it would be fun to include the hi from the new Hey, hello, hi die set. I'm going to die cut out the shadow and the word. So I have some black cardstock that matches my frame for the shadow and red cardstock that matches my background card base for the hi sentiment. And I'm going to use my wet glue to adhere those together. So that will be the start of my sentiment. I'm also going to be stamping a sentiment using different words from the movie night stamp set and their coordinating dies. And I'm going to have a sentiment that says, hi, let's stay in and watch movies. So I'm going to stamp those words on some white cardstock and some black ink. And I'm going to finish working on my layout before I stamp those out, just so I know how much room I have. I'm playing with all of the different stamped images from the set and just trying to figure out how I think the sentiment's going to look. And I like the idea of it being a little off-centered, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the stamping, and they will go in the middle right block in that window die cut. So I just put them randomly on a block because I was going to die cut the words out, so I wasn't too worried about positioning or anything, which is really great. Just wanted to make sure I had enough space in between each of those sentiment stamps to be able to die cut them out with their coordinating dies. Again, just using some repositional tape to hold everything in place while I die cut. Now that I have them die cut out, I'm going to go ahead and glue the rest of my images on. I'm going to fast forward here because you can see the dry run of everything, and I showed how I layered my little critters and the movie seat, so we don't really need to see me put foam squares on the back of all the images, but just layer in between just regular wet glue and foam adhesives to get an image that you like on the front of your card. So here's a final look at my Hi, Let's Stand and Watch Movies card featuring a lot of the images from the movie night stamp set as well as the popping popcorn stencil. I really do hope you enjoy this card and you're loving the brand new release from Time for Tea Designs. Make sure you use the links down below to head over to the shop, and you can see a list of the supplies that I used as well as all of our social media for more inspiration.